So we are joined from Jacksonville, Florida, by my friend, the owner of ISV Consulting, Angela McGuire. We thank you so much for taking some time for us today as we begin this school year of our entrepreneurship teachers. This is our speakers. This is our entrepreneurship class. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Madison Central, Rosa Scott, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Option Center, and our YouTube channel. So we thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule for us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Now, before you came on, I was just talking about we're doing a project about how you plan a business from the start. You know, the business plan, what the factors to consider and all that. And we definitely want to get to that. But just give us a little background. You're originally from Jacksonville. You went to school in Duval County your entire life, graduate of North Florida and the University of Jacksonville. So just tell us about your college background and how that was.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I grew up in a really underserved part of the community here in Jacksonville, Florida. I was lucky enough to be accepted to a college preparatory school. I was there from seventh grade to 12th grade. I didn't want to go. I wanted to go to my neighborhood school, but my dad forced me. I didn't really have a choice. And it was one of the greatest decisions that he ever made, I believe. It really taught me how to be studious. It showed me that I really did love learning, and it's just stuck with me, even until today. So that was Stanton College Preparatory School. From there, I actually was a teen mom, unfortunately, and so didn't have an opportunity to leave and go off to college, but I did maintain a desire for education. Went to the University of North Florida, where I got an associate's degree there in finance. Thought I wanted to be in finance, and then later transferred and got my bachelor's degree from the University of Phoenix in business administration. Again, loved learning, stayed here, went to Jacksonville University for my MBA, and then shortly after that, I got the bug to go back to school for my PhD. So I'm right now in the data collection phase of my PhD with a focus in education, concentration in
Wow.
organizational leadership. So, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. But that's a great example of you don't have to go away to go to school. So North Florida has some great institutions as we do here in Mississippi. Now,
Mhm.
obviously, like I said, we're working on this project of coming up with how you plan to start a business, and they're all coming up with original business concepts for the class, and that will be their concept throughout the entire year.
Mhm.
And I know you really specialize in helping businesses get started, helping them decide how to determine their target market, their marketing strategy, what things may work, what things may not work. So, as they start thinking about that, what are the main things that you think need to be considered when a young person is starting a business?
Well, the first thing I would say is you want to pick something that you have a passion for. So, just like going to work, you don't want to work for a job just because they pay a good salary, because even a good salary can get old if you're not doing
Yeah.
something that you love every day. So, when you're thinking about entrepreneurship, don't just think about what's going to make you money. I would say you want to think about something that you wouldn't mind doing. And in fact, you're happy to get up and do every day. Aside from the passion being more practical, I would say you want to think about where there is a need. So, currently, we're looking at AI and how that might be taking over. We look at robotics, we look at these different chatbots that are happening. So there is definitely a need for those things now. But going beyond the need, actually looking into, if you could, look into your crystal ball and see what the need is going to be, because we're living in a time now where things are evolving really rapidly. Um, you know, just 10, 20 years ago, we weren't having packages delivered to our homes by Amazon. We were actually getting up and going to the grocery store. But Jeff Bezos saw a need and he said people, want convenience. So I would say the first two things that I would advise anyone looking to be an entrepreneur would be, what are you passionate about, and where is there a need? You want to be able to fill that need that someone has, and that in and of itself will get you the money, because as long as someone has a need for your product or service, they're going to be willing to pay for it.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I'm glad you mentioned convenience because I always say people will pay for convenience. A big mistake I see a lot of young entrepreneurs make because we've had several students come out of this class and start their own business, even if it was just a side hustle while they were in college. and they start posting. They actually got a great idea, great marketing strategy, and they start posting their prices. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're not charging near enough.
Mhm.
Because if you have great customer service skills, you maybe can offer a little bit more than somebody else. That gives you the ability to charge more. So, what are some ways that you can maybe add convenience? Because that is such a big deal because people, it's proven, people will pay for it. If you can
Yeah.
offer more, you can charge more, and then people will pay more. So, as kids are starting to think about, how can I reach a customer that will pay X amount for this? How can they think of ways to be more convenient and maybe stand out from a competitor?
Yeah, so I think I was having this conversation actually with a young lady probably about 2 weeks ago, and she was making body oils. And, she said, I put so much into my oils. This is not the same as what other people are selling. Their oils have lots of preservatives, they're diluted, they're not healthy. She really talked about all the passion that she put into these oils. And she said, but I'm afraid people are not going to pay for it. And one of the things that I advised her was that you have to find a target market. And I want you all to remember that who are listening today, you have to have a target market. When someone asks you, who is your customer, it can't just be everybody. It can't be everybody in Madison County. That's impossible. Everybody in Madison County is not going to pay for your product or service. But what you want to do is spend some time doing some research to not only figure out who that person is, but where they're located. They may not be in your same city, they may not be in your same town, but you really want to figure out where they are, what their buying habits are like. How much money do they make? Do they have children? So that you can spend your marketing dollars going to those people or putting ads out there for those people who are willing to buy your product. So don't compromise in the beginning saying that no one will buy it. It's a matter of trying to find the people, go to those people who are willing to buy the service and have the need that you have established.
Yeah, and I always tell the story because I think it's funny. There's another friend of the class he's a wedding photographer, and he said he was just trying to undercut everybody. He was trying to be the cheapest. He was doing 3 and 4 weddings a Saturday, and when he just said he would be exhausted, so he decided to up his prices. And people were telling him, "Man, you're going to price yourself out of the market." And he said, "I did price myself out of the market, right into another one." So he was
Absolutely.
able to, he said, "I went from doing 3 weddings a Saturday to doing one, but I was able to give them the most bang up, most professional, high quality service ever, and that justified me charging double what the person that couldn't offer that could do."
Absolutely. And it doesn't just fall in your lap. You are going to have to do some research. There is
Yeah.
going to be some trial and error. A lot of times when we look at entrepreneurs as well, and we're looking at that target market and how do you price, where do you go, what do you do? Mentorship is so very important. Being able to find someone who's been there and done that, who can help guide you in the right direction. A lot of times we are afraid of competition, especially as entrepreneurs, because we feel like someone's going to steal my idea or they're going to take my customers. And that could happen, yes. But think about the benefit of locking arms or connecting with someone who's done what you're trying to do. There could be great benefit from that person showing you the ropes, pulling you along the ride to really help you to understand how you actually start this business. So, a good thing to do is find someone who's been successful at what you're trying to do. And even if you can't contact them, we have Facebook, LinkedIn, Snapchat, all types of ways now that people are accessible to you. But even if you can't do that, read a book about the person, find out what they did to become successful, and then you're able to emulate some of those steps and really save some time and energy for yourself.
Yeah, and we do that in this class too. Even if it's short, we have case studies in every chapter that highlight different entrepreneurs, and then we do a great big thing of it at Black History Month to talk about how some of those Black entrepreneurs literally we use things every day that they just thought of. They're like, man, wouldn't this make it easier?
Yeah. So one of the things that I did, I'm not sure if you all are familiar with this product, it's called Poopery. But it is a spray that someone sprays in the toilet before they go potty, and it covers the scent or it makes it smell fresh. And so I was looking at YouTube one day, and this commercial came up for Poopery. And I'm like, if this person can sell this product, then certainly I can sell a product of my own making. And so I developed a personal care product for men, and I put it on the market right after I finished my master's degree. As a matter of fact, I was in school and I presented that as my marketing project and ended up later hiring a chemist and taking that product to market. But in the midst of that, I reached out to the owner of Poopery, who was not selling the same thing that I was selling, reached out to her on LinkedIn. She, responded right away, set up an interview with her, and I asked her tons of questions. How did you get in the stores? How did you come up with the idea? How did you manufacture your product? And she was, really gracious enough to answer all of my questions. And just from seeing something and getting an idea off YouTube, I was able to connect with someone who's doing great things and making a lot of money, who was able to sit down and actually mentor me. So it's not impossible.
Now, you mentioned selling, and this is a big soapbox of mine because, and it's not, I'm not picking on this particular class. I'm talking about this entire generation. This generation really struggles with the verbal communication, the verbal selling, to be able to sell a product, even if you're not an entrepreneur, sell yourself. Employers like hiring people that think like entrepreneurs. So even if you're not going to take the financial risk, you could be a huge asset for a company by thinking like an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
So they moan and groan because I make them get up and present, and I keep trying to tell them how important that is to be able to speak, to be able to look a customer in the eye and say, "Look, here's what I'm selling. Here's what it costs. Here's how it can benefit you." So, how important is it to start honing those skills now while they're in high school?
Yeah, so I would say extremely important, because you're going to have to tell your story. You will hear a lot nowadays about people talking about storytelling. So they don't want to just hear, in business class, we learned they don't want to hear the features, they want to hear the benefits. So if you created something wonderful, and let's just say it cures cancer. You could walk around all day long and say, I have this product that cures cancer. And, some people might, be interested. Some people might not believe you, but what's going to make them actually listen to you? It's going to say, you know what? I have something that's going to prolong your life. I have something that's going to make your family proud, that's going to make you feel vibrant, that's going to make your life 100 times better. Well, now you've piqued my interest because you've been able to really tell me how what you have is going to benefit me. So we're not talking about the features, we're talking about those benefits. And even if you don't feel like you have the confidence, you can practice. There are mirrors for you to practice in. There are people that can help you. We talked about AI. There's Chat GPT. There's a free version. Why don't you try putting in your idea and asking them to give you a sales pitch? And you
There
can
you go.
memorize that. You don't have to go off the cuff like Mr. Greg or Miss Angela. You can actually memorize that and start there. Practice that, get that down, and then those skills will develop. But in order for you to sell anything, you've got to learn to tell that story, and you can't be afraid to do it. You've got to be your own champion in this.
Yeah, and it's all about perceived value. The trick I used to use all the time because I used to sell cellular phones. The trick it would work every time, and I never lied to anybody. I never was deceitful. But you can find ways to make things sound better. Whenever anybody would call on the phone and they were asking about the price of a phone, I would say, "Yeah, when you get here, you're going to need X amount." But what
Mhm.
they didn't know, that amount I told them also included a few accessories. So when
Mm.
I come out and I've got a package full of stuff and I'll say, look, that's whatever. Oh, wow, that includes all that? Yeah. The price I told you on the phone, you're getting all of this. Wow, I didn't know that. And
Mhm.
it worked almost every time. It
Yeah.
literally, you can find ways to make things sound better. I didn't lie about the price. I never told them they were getting something that they weren't. But just that perceived value and that psychological game said, man, I got to have this.
Absolutely. And people don't like to be sold. They don't want to feel like you're selling something to them. So that's why it's important for you to understand what their need is so you can speak to that need. There's Apple, there's Android, there's all of these different things. People, have their preferences. And so nobody wants for you to walk up to them and say, "Hey, I'm getting ready to sell you a phone." But if you tell them these are the benefits, this is how it's going to make your life easier, this is how you're going to have more time, you're going to save more time, it's going to make your life, it's going to make you look cool. You're gonna look so fresh and so clean with this new iPhone. You know, people want to hear that. They don't want to hear, I want to sell you this or why you need to buy from me. But how is this product or service going to help make their life easier or more convenient, as we were talking about?
Big time. Now, before I get to their questions, one thing I think is important to talk about as well. They don't know it yet, but after we get back from Labor Day, we're going to be looking at SWOT analysis, mission statement, vision statement. And I know you're a business plan expert, and that is something that has to go in the culture of every business. So
Mhm.
even if it's something you don't have posted on the wall, why is it so important to have that? Because my feeling is if you're going to bring in employees and you're going to be out there in the public, people need to know what you stand for. So why is that such a great first step in knowing, look, here's what we do well, here's what we can work on, and here's our mission and our vision for this company?
Yeah. So just, to differentiate between the two, the vision is really more so the long-term goal that you all are looking to accomplish with your business. Depending on what that is, you want to look, a little bit further into the future and say, 5, 10, 15 years from now, this is when I want to look back and say that we've been able to accomplish. The mission is more of the how you're going to get there. So what steps are we going to take to get there? Doesn't have to be a long paragraph. There are some schools of thought that say you should keep it less than 30 words. So just something that's really easy and simple, not only for you to remember, but also for your staff, your future staff, your clients, your customers to see and know the direction that you're going in. You mentioned a SWOT analysis, Craig, and when we look at SWOT, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Some of those relate to your business internally, some relate to the external environment, but it's important to know what you're up against. Whenever I put together a business plan or a strategic plan for a customer, one of the things we put in there are contingencies. What could go wrong? So those are some things that we don't always think about as entrepreneurs. We know where we want to go. We know how much money we want to make. We know what we want the product to look like, but there are lots of things that could happen. For example, real world, there were tariffs that just happened.
Yeah.
And so if you're buying products from another country, that didn't necessarily affect us in the United States. Our tariffs didn't go up, but shipping from other countries went up. And so that made a lot of people either go out of business or have to increase their prices for the customers that they serve. So it's super important to have a really well-rounded 360 view of that business. What if you have to close? What if you don't get the investor? What if the building doesn't come through? So you have to have those contingency plans. Think about plan B and C and what if, because we don't live in a perfect world. And so when we think about vision and mission, it's great to have those things. They really help to keep us on the right path. They really help to bring us back to center when we get too far off course. But it's also important to know about our internal and external environments because things change all the time.
Big time. Well, I got some questions from the students, and these are absolutely fantastic. I'm so glad they're thinking about this. I can't put them on camera, but I wish you could see this first one. She is absolutely glued to the screen and listen to everything you're saying. This is
Nice.
Kaylin Bullock. She's in ninth grade, and she asks, "What habits that you have mastered have helped you be successful?"
For me, I think calendaring is very important for me. I have a lot of things going on a lot of the time. And so making sure that I'm staying on a schedule is very important. So not only do I schedule my appointments, I also schedule time for exercise. I schedule my family time. I schedule, what I'm going to eat for that day. And you may think that may be a little bit, too much, but for me, that are important to us, we have to make time for. And so when we get off course, when we start doing too many things, that is what really gets a lot of people anxious. They can't really focus. They don't know what's going on. So for me, I have to use a schedule. I have to make sure that I'm calendaring things because that helps to keep me on track. So that's a good habit for me. Also for me, I actually pray and meditate. Not sure what your faith is, but for me personally, that's a super important part of me being centered and understanding, you know, just becoming aligned with where I need to be. And then finally, I do read affirmations daily. I have a great app that I use. It's called I Am, and I read affirmations daily that tell me that I am amazing, that I can do it, that I can accomplish anything. So those are three habits that I really use every day to help me stay focused.
That's awesome. And I agree. I mean, there's never been an excuse for that. The apps are there for you. I love this question, and I don't know this, and I'm glad he's asked this. This is Zayden Mann. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "How did you come up with the name ISV Consulting?"
So yeah, so I actually, this is a shortened name. When I first started my consulting business over 10 years ago, it was I Align Strategic Vision Consulting. So I had a little logo, it had an eye on it. And I wanted to, thinking about the last question, I wanted to help align businesses. So I Align Strategic Vision Consulting. But, understanding that people don't want to read long names anymore. I shortened it, and so now it's ISB.
That's awesome. I like this question. This is really, really good. This is Raheem Cole. He's in ninth grade, and he asked, "When you talked about your passion should be a part of starting your business, what if you have more than one passion?"
So you could potentially start more than one business. I wouldn't recommend it, but I would really choose the thing. So I talked about passion, but I also talked about that need. So you want to look at, where the need is. So really maybe taking a chart, drawing a line right now in the middle and taking those different ideas and doing a strengths and weakness analysis. So what are some of the positives of me starting this business right now? What are some of those negatives or contingencies I need to think about? And then maybe doing a sheet of paper for each of those different businesses. And when you look at it and you compare the one that has more strengths or more opportunities there, and to begin with, I would say start there. But again, you don't have to limit your ideas. Maybe it's not no to starting that second business, but just not now. So really looking at it quantitatively, quantitatively, seeing how many positives versus how many negatives and using that to help to determine where you want to start first.
Yeah, and the cost could be a big part of that because it depends on the industry. Because we had this conversation yesterday. When you're coming up with an idea, depending on what you're going to do, it goes back to the market research. Two great examples of completely opposite. We've had friends of this class. One of them does social media marketing. Another one owns a funeral home. The funeral home is going to be a one-stop shop where she handles everything. A social media marketing person, they're more going to focus on one kind of niche area. So it really depends on the type of industry when it comes to what you're going to offer and how much you're going to put into it. So I think that's a great point because you may have this passion, but it can be really expensive to get into. But if you want to get your foot in the door with something else, that could be, and you have another passion, that could be something as well.
Absolutely. And then you use that one to build up the finances in order to start something else. So you don't have to start, with the big idea right away, but what can help lead up to where you're trying to get in that end game.
All right, I got time for one more, but she's got a couple of questions. But this is Avery Harris. She's in 10th grade, one of our volleyball players, one of the top archers in the state of Mississippi. She
Nice.
can sling that thing like Katniss Everdeen. So um, she asked, "What was it that inspired you to become an entrepreneur?"
That's a great question. So for me, I think I just wanted to have a greater impact. Um, I think being someone who is able to help others. I've always wanted to help others. I just didn't know how I wanted to do that. And so, starting with passion, this is why I can give you that advice. My first business was a childcare business, and I started it from scratch, but I had a passion for
Okay.
educating children. And so then there was a need along with it as well. I saw that in certain communities, there was not quality education being given to those children. And so, with my passion for education, I created a business that was not only able to sustain me, but also provide that need that that community had. So that is really what pushed me out there, seeing the need and having that passion really just, gave me the impetus that I needed to step out.
Absolutely. And then she also asked, when you first became an entrepreneur, what were the biggest challenges you faced?
Oh, wow. Um, Getting people to see my vision. That was a challenge. We talked about vision and mission earlier. It was a challenge to get people to see my vision. The building that was actually given to me, but the building was in such disrepair. If you were to walk in, you would say, there's no way this is ever going to be a child care center. And so, going back to some of the things we talked about, how did I then articulate that passion? I had to be really good at selling my vision to other people, not just to the people who might invest, but to the plumber who came out. This is going to be an amazing childcare facility. And you, my friend, can give me a discount right now. That's going to help to make those little ones have a better future. So, just rehearsing that story over and over again, finding that passion, knowing my vision, knowing my why, all of that, just really, really helped to bring that vision to pass.
That's awesome. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for joining us. But a couple things before we go. First of all, isvconsulting.com is the website. If anybody would like more information, and your contact is on there as well. Really, really cool stuff you're posting all the time. Just great speaker, great content. Because I always say, we follow the celebrities. Why don't we follow somebody that can pour something positive into us? And I think you're a great follow on LinkedIn as well. Now, the last thing before we go, and I was quoted in a magazine 2 years ago about talking about the lack of resources in rural communities, especially rural Black communities. And you talked about you grew up before you went to the school in an underserved area, but there's been a lot of changes in the last few decades. There has never been a better time to be successful. There's never been a better time to make a difference. So even though we're a rural area, we're an all Black community, but there is still so many opportunities and so many resources. So as these kids are moving through high school to their next steps, why should they really consider, even if they're just a side hustle or a part-time entrepreneur, why should they really consider taking that risk of being an entrepreneur and really making a difference in their community?
So anyone who's been successful in any great level, whether you're looking at Charles Schwab or you're looking at the Rockefellers, they will tell you that it's always important to have multiple streams of income. So as Greg just mentioned, things are changing all the time. You never know if you're going to have your job. You never know if AI is going to boot your particular job, out of the industry and you're no longer needed. But when you have multiple streams of income, it doesn't hurt as much if one of those streams dries up. So with entrepreneurship, you really do have the power, you have the freedom, you have the flexibility to do what's necessary. You don't have to just quit your job and jump out there and start a business. You can have a
Good.
side hustle. You can drive an Uber. You can do some other things to really generate that income so that no matter what happens in the economy, no matter what happens in this world, you do have a way to sustain yourself and your family for the future.
Absolutely. Well, again, we thank you so much for fitting us in your busy schedule, and it's been such a pleasure. We've got to do this again. I cannot think of a better person to really get us started this year. But Dr. Angela McGuire, owner of ISV Consulting, all the way from Jacksonville, Florida, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you all. Be great students and have a wonderful school year.
All right, thanks. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Okay, bye.
See ya.